You know that feeling. It creeps in quietly at first, a tension behind your ribs, a tightening in your throat, that vague, invisible weight you carry around, the sense that something is about to go wrong if you don't get everything just right. Maybe it shows up before a big decision, or when you're alone with your thoughts. It whispers things like, "You're not ready, you'll mess this up, you're falling behind," and no matter how much you try to distract yourself, that fear lingers. We're taught to treat fear like a flaw, something to hide, manage, or erase, as if bravery means the absence of fear and success means never trembling. But what if that's completely backward? Nietzsche didn't see fear as weakness. He saw it as a signal, a mirror reflecting back the edges of your growth, a test, not to punish you, but to ask you, what do you truly value? What are you willing to risk for it? In his eyes, fear is not your enemy. It's the raw material of transformation. Because if you're afraid, it means you care. It means you're standing at the edge of something real, something that matters. And while comfort might lull you into passivity, fear wakes you up. It sharpens your awareness. It reminds you that you're alive. So maybe the fear you're feeling isn't a sign that you're failing. Maybe it's the most honest thing you've felt in a long time. And maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning of courage. In this video, we're going to take a hard look at fear, not just the surface level jitters, but the deeper kind, the kind that quietly hijacks your thoughts, drains your energy, and makes you question whether you're capable of handling your own life. You know the moments when your mind won't stop racing, when every decision feels like a trap, and when your confidence evaporates before you've even begun. We'll start by breaking down what fear really is, not just emotionally, but mentally. We'll explore how fear distorts your thinking, creating a constant loop of overanalyzing, second-guessing, and trying to control everything around you. That loop can feel safe, but it's actually a trap, one that leads to paralysis, not progress. Then we'll turn to Nietzsche, not as some lofty philosopher with abstract ideas, but as a real, grounded voice who understood what it means to walk into the chaos of life and find strength there. His words won't offer cliches, they'll offer challenge and direction, and we won't stop at philosophy. We'll bring in practical tools from psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy to identify fear-based thoughts, ACT to help you act in the presence of fear, and mindfulness to bring you back into the present moment, where courage can actually take root, because you don't overcome fear by silencing it or running from it. You overcome fear by facing it, by walking forward, not perfectly, but consciously, with your head high and your voice intact. Most people live ruled by fear, and they don't even know it. It doesn't always show up as panic or dread. Often it's subtle. It shows up as hesitation, as a quiet what if that loops in the back of your mind. You fear making the wrong decision, so you delay just a little longer. You fear judgment, so you water yourself down to be more palatable. You fear not being good enough, so you avoid putting yourself out there at all. It feels like self-protection, like caution, like being smart. But fear doesn't just live in your thoughts. It floods your whole body. Your heart races, your shoulders tighten, your stomach churns. Biologically, your brain is scanning for danger, trying to keep you safe. And in the past, that made sense. Fear helped us survive predators and life-threatening risks. But in the modern world, the threats are more abstract. It's not a lion hiding in the bushes. It's an upcoming deadline, a conversation you've been avoiding, or a dream that feels too big. Your nervous system still reacts like it's life or death. And so you overthink, you analyze everything, you rehearse how people might react, how you might fail, how it could all go wrong. It feels like you're gaining control, but what you're really doing is giving it away. You become trapped in your head, convincing yourself that if you can just think it through enough, you'll be safe. But instead of preparing you, it paralyzes you. You don't take risks, you don't speak up, you don't act on your deeper instincts. And slowly, without even noticing, you start shrinking your life to fit your fear. That's not protection, that's self-abandonment. And the cost is far greater than the fear itself. What if fear isn't here to stop you? What if it's not a warning to retreat, but a signal that you're standing on the edge of something meaningful? We tend to treat fear like a red light, a message to turn back, to play it safe. But what if we've misunderstood it entirely? What if fear is actually a green light in disguise, a sign that you're brushing up against the edges of your current identity, that you're being asked to grow? Friedrich Nietzsche saw fear not as weakness, but as a necessary tension. He wrote, "The snake which cannot shed its skin must die." In his eyes, fear was the friction that arises when your old self no longer fits, but the new self hasn't fully formed yet. It's the discomfort of becoming. Think about that moment before a big leap, whether it's starting a new chapter, ending a toxic pattern, or stepping into the unknown. Your instincts scream danger, but maybe that fear isn't danger. Maybe it's transformation. Nietzsche believed that real change is always accompanied by fear because change requires death of what is familiar, what is comfortable, what is no longer true, and most of us avoid that. We numb it, deny it, talk ourselves down, but fear isn't trying to harm you, it's trying to wake you up. It's saying something important is happening here, pay attention, and the more intense the fear, the more profound the call. That knot in your chest, that urge to run, that's not weakness. That's a signal that you're on sacred ground, at the threshold of becoming someone new. Fear, then, is not the obstacle, it's the invitation. The only question is, will you answer it? But most people refuse the call. It's not that they don't hear it, they do. That quiet tug in the chest, that inner knowing that something needs to change. But change feels risky, and fear knows exactly how to dress itself up as safety. So we retreat. We reach for what's familiar, we scroll, we procrastinate, we get busy chasing productivity instead of purpose. We aim for perfect because it feels more noble than admitting we're afraid. Nietzsche called this the herd instinct, the unconscious pull towards safety, comfort, and sameness, the desire to blend in, to follow the rules, to avoid standing out or standing up. It's the voice that says, just be normal, don't make waves, stay where it's predictable. And society rewards it. We're praised for being practical, for choosing stability over uncertainty. We call it being mature, being responsible, even wise. But under that veneer of control, something quieter begins to die. Because when you ignore your deeper callings, when you shrink yourself to fit into expectations, you don't just avoid risk, you abandon your becoming. You bury the parts of you that long to grow, to speak, to create, to lead. You silence the quiet scream of your unlived life. At first, that silence feels like relief, but over time, it becomes restlessness, a gnawing dissatisfaction that no success or approval can fully soothe. You begin to sense that you're living someone else's version of life, and that yours is waiting just outside the lines you've drawn for yourself. The truth is, staying small isn't safe, it's soul decay. Slowly, invisibly, you're disconnecting from what makes you feel alive, and the longer you stay there, the harder it becomes to remember who you could have been, if only you'd said yes to the fear. If you've felt this, if fear has ever disguised itself as logic or caution in your life, consider liking or subscribing. We explore the psychology of self-mastery and how to reclaim your mind from everything that holds it hostage. Let's keep going. Nietzsche didn't believe in avoiding fear, he believed in transcending it. To him, fear wasn't something to eliminate. It was something to engage with, to walk toward, to wrestle until it reshaped you. He famously urged us to live dangerously, not in the reckless sense of seeking chaos for its own sake, but in the deeper, more courageous sense, to choose growth over comfort, to lean into the unknown, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. This wasn't philosophical posturing. It was a radical call to embrace life fully, including the parts that terrify us. Nietzsche understood that comfort can quietly become a cage, that the desire for safety often becomes the very thing that prevents transformation. He believed that we're not meant to be free from fear, we're meant to be free through it. Strangely enough, modern psychology echoes this. Acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, teaches that fear doesn't have to go away for you to act. You can feel fear and still move forward. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to stop letting fear be in charge. As ACT puts it, let fear ride in the car, but don't give it the keys. Nietzsche would have agreed. He wasn't interested in fragile positivity or blind optimism. He wanted you to become someone who could carry your fear, who could endure suffering and still grow more whole. In his words, to become worthy of your suffering. Because it's not the absence of fear that defines you. It's how you meet it, what you do with it, how you rise through it. To live well, Nietzsche believed, is to live honestly, with eyes open, spine straight, and fear at your side, not as a master, but as a mirror of your potential. This is the moment you stop running. You stop trying to outthink your fear, outrun it, or bury it under distraction and control. Instead, you turn toward it, not with panic, but with curiosity. You stop negotiating with your fears, trying to reason them into silence, and you begin to listen to them, not because they're always right, but because they're trying to tell you something. This is the threshold, the point where avoidance ends and transformation begins. Mindfulness is your first tool. It teaches you to observe your thoughts without getting entangled in them, to see fear not as a fixed truth, but as a passing mental event, a story your brain is telling you, not necessarily the reality of what's happening. Then comes cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which helps you name and challenge those distorted stories, the catastrophizing, the perfectionism, the all-or-nothing thinking. When you learn to spot those patterns, you begin to loosen their grip. You realize that just because your mind screams disaster doesn't mean it's right. And finally, there's acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, which adds the most powerful piece, action. ACT teaches that you don't need to feel brave to be brave. You don't need to wait for the fear to pass before you move. Instead, you choose to act in alignment with your values, even if fear is sitting in the passenger seat. Because the moment you start acting from your values instead of your fears, everything changes. You're no longer a passive subject of your mind's worst-case scenarios. You become the author. You choose what matters most. You take the risk. You write the next page, not because you've conquered fear, but because you've stopped letting it write the story for you. And that's when you begin to reclaim your life. But make no mistake, it won't be easy. When you finally turn to face your fear, you'll meet resistance, not just from the outside world, but from within your own mind. That familiar voice will rise up, the one that says, "You're not ready." It will sound calm, reasonable, almost protective, but it's fear in disguise, trying to keep you small. Then comes the inner critic, harsh, unrelenting, mocking your ambition before you've even begun. It will dredge up every past failure, every unfinished goal, every moment of hesitation, and say, "See, you're not capable." And then there's the fatigue, the exhaustion that comes from years of overthinking, of trying to manage every outcome, of being stuck in your own head. That kind of mental warfare wears you down. It makes comfort feel like relief. Safety starts to look like wisdom. So you'll be tempted to retreat, to wait, to delay action until everything is perfect. The timing, the plan, the version of yourself you think you need to become. But here's the truth, that moment of perfection will never arrive. Nietzsche saw this too. He once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." In other words, if you don't define your purpose, your deeper reason for walking through the fear, then fear will define your path for you. It will hijack your life and sell you a story of limitation disguised as logic. That's why you must clarify your why. It's your anchor, your compass. It's the only thing strong enough to silence the voices that say you can't. And it doesn't have to be grand or public. It just has to be honest. Because once you know what you're willing to fight for, the war within starts to make sense, and you stop backing down. Something begins to shift. It's not loud or dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or a sudden surge of confidence. It's quieter than that, more grounded. You simply stop asking fear for permission. You stop waiting for the anxiety to subside before you move forward. You stop needing to feel ready before you act. Instead, you start, you speak, you move, you create, not because the fear is gone, but because you've changed your relationship to it. You carry it with awareness now, not obedience. Fear becomes background noise, not the voice that directs your choices, but the echo that reminds you you're stepping into something that matters. And something incredible happens in this space. You begin to reconnect with your inner authority. You stop outsourcing your worth to others. You stop filtering every decision through the lens of approval or perfection. The direction you move in no longer depends on how safe it feels, but on how true it feels. Your actions start to reflect your values, not your fears. This is presence, not the absence of doubt, but the ability to act within doubt. You speak even when your voice trembles. You show up even when your hands shake. And in doing so, you rewrite the story that fear had been telling you all along. You're not fragile. You're not stuck. You're not broken. You're capable. You're evolving. You're home. And this is the return of your inner authority, the quiet but steady recognition that you are the one who gets to decide. Not your fear, not your past, not your old conditioning. You. That's the moment when life starts to feel different, not because the world changes, but because you do, from the inside out, one act of courage at a time. You return to your ordinary life, but you're not the same. The deadlines are still there, the tough conversations still wait, the unknown still looms, but something within you has shifted. Where you once avoided, you now lean in. You ask the question, you send the message. You step into the moment rather than planning your escape from it. Where you once rehearsed failure in your mind, now you practice courage in your actions. Not in grand, dramatic ways, but in the quiet, consistent choice to show up anyway. You no longer wait for the fear to disappear. You move with it, beside it, through it. And the overthinking that used to paralyze you, it begins to lose its grip. You still have doubts, you still imagine what could go wrong, but you no longer build your decisions around them. You act, you speak, you live. Fear didn't vanish. It's still there, a familiar presence, but now it walks behind you, not ahead of you. It no longer dictates your path. It simply reminds you that you're walking one worth taking. You carry fear differently now, not as a chain that drags you down, but as a torch that lights the way, a symbol of everything you've moved through and everything you're still becoming. This is what it means to live beyond fear, not without it, but beyond its control. You've returned stronger, clearer, and more alive. And this time, you're not waiting for permission. You're moving forward, on your terms. You are not broken. You are simply being asked to evolve. Fear isn't your weakness. It's your invitation, your edge, your mirror. It's not there to paralyze you, but to pull you toward a fuller version of yourself. Because friction, as painful as it can feel, is what creates fire, and fire transforms. So the next time fear rises, and it will, don't ask, how do I get rid of this? Ask instead, what is this fear asking me to become? That shift changes everything. Let me know in the comments. What fear are you finally ready to stop running from? What truth have you been avoiding that it's time to face? And if this spoke to something in you, don't stop here.